April 30th, 1945. Deep inside a bunker in Berlin, Adolf Hitler is said to have taken his own life as the Third Reich collapsed around him. At least, that's what history tells us. But what if I told you there's a theory that Hitler didn't die in Berlin at all? That instead, he escaped across the ocean, slipped into South America, and lived out the rest of his life in Argentina. From missing bodies and mysterious submarines to declassified FBI documents and eyewitness accounts, the idea that Hitler fled to Argentina has haunted historians and conspiracy theorists for decades. So today, we're going to dive into one of the most enduring conspiracy theories of World War II. Did Hitler really escape to Argentina? The official story versus the conspiracy. When it comes to Adolf Hitler's death, the official story is one of the most well-documented events of the Second World War, at least on the surface. According to history books, on April 30th, 1945, with Soviet forces closing in on his underground bunker in Berlin, Hitler took his own life alongside his wife, Eva Braun. His staff claimed the bodies were quickly carried outside, doused in petrol, and set ablaze to prevent them from falling into enemy hands. For decades, this narrative was accepted as fact. But here's where the cracks begin to show. No Western ally, neither the Americans nor the British, ever saw Hitler's body. The entire story of his death comes from second-hand accounts given by shaken Nazi officials, many of whom had every reason to lie. Even more suspicious is the fact that Stalin himself, at the Potsdam Conference, told US President Truman that he believed Hitler was still alive. In fact, Soviet reports kept shifting. First they said they had the body, then they didn't, then they did again, and eventually, forensic analysis revealed that a skull fragment long displayed in Moscow as Hitler's actually belonged to a woman. This fog of uncertainty left a massive question hanging in the air. If the most infamous dictator in history truly died in that bunker, why is there no definitive proof? That vacuum of evidence is exactly what gave birth to the conspiracy that Hitler didn't die in Berlin at all, but instead slipped through the chaos of war and made his way to Argentina. The missing body mystery. One of the biggest red flags in the story of Hitler's death is the simple fact that his body has never been conclusively proven to exist. Think about it, this was the most hunted man on earth, the figurehead of a regime that had plunged the world into chaos. If his body had been recovered and identified beyond all doubt, it would have been the ultimate symbol of victory for the Allies. Yet, strangely enough, no such proof was ever presented. The Soviets, who were the first to storm Berlin, claimed they had the remains. But the details were murky from the very beginning. According to reports, Hitler's body had been badly burned by his staff, leaving only charred fragments. The Soviets announced they had found skull and jaw fragments, which they later displayed as evidence. But here's the twist. Decades later, in 2009, modern DNA testing revealed that the skull fragment wasn't Hitler's at all, it belonged to a woman under the age of 40. This discovery sent shockwaves through the historical community. If the Soviets had the wrong remains, then what actually happened to Hitler's body? Did his staff destroy it so completely that nothing survived? Did the Soviets cover up a failure to find it? Or, as conspiracy theorists argue, was there never a body in that bunker in the first place? The mystery of the missing body is the fuel that keeps the Hitler escaped theory alive. Because if the Allies and Soviets, the two most powerful military forces in the world at that time, couldn't definitively prove Hitler's death, then maybe, just maybe, he wasn't in that bunker at all. Stop. If you liked this video, please give us a like, leave a comment behind, and don't forget to subscribe, since we have a new video every week. Now, let's roll back to the video. The U-boat connection. If Hitler really did escape Berlin, he would have needed a way to vanish from Europe undetected. According to conspiracy theorists, the answer lies beneath the waves, Nazi U-boats. Germany's submarine fleet was legendary during World War II, and after the collapse of the Third Reich, many of these vessels simply disappeared. Their final missions remain shrouded in mystery, and some of those missions point directly toward South America. In July 1945, months after Hitler was officially declared dead, two German submarines, U-530 and U-977, suddenly appeared off the coast of Argentina. Their crews surrendered, but here's the strange part. Nobody could explain what they were doing there, or why it had taken them so long after Germany's surrender to give themselves up. Conspiracy theorists believe these subs weren't just wandering aimlessly, they were delivering high-ranking Nazis, secret cargo, or possibly even Hitler himself to safety in South America. The story gets even wilder. According to rumors, U-530 dropped Hitler and Eva Braun near the southern coast of Argentina before scuttling evidence of the mission. And U-977? Its captain later wrote a book denying any involvement, claiming they simply fled Germany to avoid capture. But for many, the timing is too perfect and the story too convenient. Why show up in Argentina of all places, a country known for sheltering Nazi fugitives? These mysterious submarines gave just enough plausibility to the idea of a secret escape route. And in the chaos of 1945, with Allied intelligence scrambling to piece together the final days of the war, it's not hard to see how one man, even Hitler, could slip away beneath the waves. FBI declassified files. One of the most fascinating twists in the Hitler in Argentina theory came not from fringe researchers or sensational tabloid stories, but from the FBI itself. In 2014, a massive collection of declassified FBI documents was released to the public. Buried inside those dusty files were dozens of reports suggesting that U.S. intelligence agencies were taking the possibility of Hitler's escape very seriously. One document in particular, dated 1945, describes an informant claiming that Hitler had fled Germany and was hiding in Argentina. The informant went into extraordinary detail, describing Hitler's supposed route across the Atlantic, even down to the fact that he shaved off his iconic mustache to avoid recognition. The report mentions him living in a remote part of the Andes, surrounded by other Nazi fugitives and wealthy sympathizers who had been preparing safe havens long before the war ended. Now, here's the kicker. The FBI never officially debunked these claims. Instead, the reports were filed, investigated, and eventually forgotten in the mountain of post-war intelligence. But the fact that America's top investigative agency even considered the idea and documented it gave conspiracy theorists all the ammunition they needed. If the US government thought it was worth looking into, then maybe Hitler's escape wasn't just a crazy rumor. When those files hit the internet decades later, they reignited public interest in the theory. Suddenly, it wasn't just tinfoil hat speculation, it was a story stamped with the seal of the FBI. And while mainstream historians still dismiss the claims as unreliable, the mere existence of those declassified documents keeps the mystery alive. What did the FBI really know about Hitler's fate, and why did they take the Argentina story so seriously? Eyewitness accounts. What makes the Hitler in Argentina theory so gripping isn't just missing evidence or government files, it's the people who claimed they actually saw him. For decades after the war, stories surfaced from locals, travelers, and even Nazi sympathizers in Argentina and nearby countries who swore they encountered the Führer long after 1945. Some described a man living under an assumed name, with his famous mustache shaved off and his hair either dyed or turning grey. Witnesses said he often kept a low profile, surrounded by loyal ex-SS officers who ensured he was never left unguarded. A few even claimed to have shared meals with him in remote villages, describing how he still ranted about world politics and his vision for a reborn Reich. One particularly striking account came from a former Nazi officer who insisted that Hitler had fled to Patagonia and was living on a sprawling estate. According to his story, Hitler and Eva Braun were not only alive but continued their relationship quietly under the protection of wealthy German expatriates who had settled in Argentina decades earlier. Then there are the townspeople. In the 1950s, locals in a small Argentine village reported seeing a mysterious German couple who fit Hitler and Braun's description. They were described as reclusive, guarded, and always wary of outsiders. Even children grew up with rumors that the man with the strange accent in the hills was none other than Hitler himself. Of course, eyewitness accounts can be unreliable, memories fade, stories get exaggerated, and in post-war South America, conspiracy was practically a cottage industry. But the sheer number of these reports, scattered across years and regions, added another layer of intrigue. Were they all fabrications? Or could so many people, separated by time and distance, really be describing the same man? The dictator the world thought was long dead. Argentina as a Nazi haven. If Hitler were to choose any country to vanish into after the fall of the Third Reich, Argentina would have been at the top of the list, and for good reason. Under President Juan Perón, Argentina became one of the most notorious safe havens for fleeing Nazis. The government not only turned a blind eye to their arrival, but in many cases actively helped them escape Europe and establish new lives in South America. History confirms that some of the most infamous war criminals found refuge there. Adolf Hitler, one of the chief architects of the Holocaust, lived quietly in Buenos Aires until he was captured by Israeli Mossad agents in 1960. Joseph Mengele, the Angel of Death from Auschwitz, also slipped into Argentina before moving around South America, evading justice for decades. If these high-ranking Nazis could disappear into Argentina's vast landscape, sheltered by sympathetic communities, why not Hitler too? The infrastructure was already in place. Secret ratlins, escape routes organized by pro-Nazi networks, Catholic officials, and even elements of the Red Cross helped funnel war criminals out of Europe. Once in Argentina, fugitives often blended seamlessly into the large German immigrant population, where their presence raised little suspicion. Entire towns in Patagonia and Córdoba were filled with German-speaking communities, creating the perfect cover for someone trying to vanish. Conspiracy theorists argue that this environment provided everything Hitler would have needed: protection from sympathetic officials, the company of loyal followers, and remote regions where he could remain hidden from the outside world. Add to that Argentina's geographical advantages: dense forests, isolated mountains, and rural estancias far removed from prying eyes, and it's easy to see why the country became a hotbed of speculation. So when stories surfaced of Hitler escaping to Argentina, they didn't sound entirely far-fetched. After all, it wasn't a matter of whether Nazis were hiding there, it was already proven. The real question was whether the most infamous one of all had joined them. The estancia, mansion, theory. If Hitler truly escaped to Argentina, where exactly would he have lived? According to conspiracy theorists, the answer lies in the mysterious estancias, large, secluded mansions scattered across the Argentine countryside. These sprawling estates, owned by wealthy German expatriates and Nazi sympathizers, provided the perfect hiding places for fugitives on the run. One of the most talked-about locations is in Patagonia, a remote region at the southern tip of Argentina known for its rugged mountains and isolation. Rumors suggest that a heavily guarded mansion was prepared there even before the war ended, designed specifically as a safe haven for high-ranking Nazis. Locals claimed they saw convoys of German cars heading to the property in the late 1940s, bringing supplies and sometimes foreign visitors who spoke in hushed German tones. Another hotspot often mentioned is Córdoba, a region with a strong German-Argentine community. Researchers and treasure hunters claim to have discovered abandoned estates in the area filled with Nazi memorabilia, swastikas etched into walls, and even secret tunnels leading to escape routes. These eerie remnants have fueled speculation that Hitler himself may have once walked those halls, living comfortably while the world believed he was long dead. In fact, in 2017, archaeologists in Argentina uncovered a hidden cache of Nazi relics, including busts of Hitler, swastika-emblazoned ornaments, and even medical instruments believed to have been used for altering appearances. Many believe these items were stashed in one of these mansions, possibly intended for the use of a fugitive Hitler and his inner circle. The estancia theory paints a chilling picture, not of a dictator on the run, but of a man living out his final years in luxury and secrecy, sipping wine on the veranda of a remote estate, while the world searched for answers in the ashes of Berlin. And while no definitive proof has ever surfaced, the mansions of Argentina remain central to the legend, haunting reminders of a conspiracy that refuses to die. CIA interest. The intrigue surrounding Hitler's alleged escape to Argentina doesn't stop with locals and historians, it reaches the shadowy corridors of intelligence agencies, including the CIA. Declassified documents suggest that American intelligence took the possibility of Hitler's survival seriously enough to launch investigations long after the war ended. And this is where the story gets straight out of a spy thriller. According to reports, CIA operatives monitored German expatriate communities in Argentina, keeping tabs on wealthy estates, suspicious movements, and any whispers of former Nazis attempting to hide in plain sight. Informants were reportedly deployed to gather intelligence on supposed sightings of Hitler and his associates. Some accounts even claim the CIA tracked a mysterious German man who bore a striking resemblance to the dictator, traveling under a false identity through remote parts of Patagonia. Why would the CIA expend resources on this? Partly, it was a matter of post-war geopolitics. The US was keenly aware of lingering Nazi networks and their potential influence in South America. Some intelligence officers genuinely believed that Hitler, or at least high-ranking Nazi leaders, might be orchestrating operations from the shadows, and if so, they needed to know where and how. The declassified documents add another layer of plausibility to the escape theory. It's not just locals claiming to have seen Hitler or conspiracy theorists connecting dots. The world's most powerful spy agencies were quietly investigating the same possibility. And while mainstream historians often dismiss these reports as the product of paranoia or misidentification, for those who follow the conspiracy, the CIA's interest is the ultimate what if. If the Americans were taking it seriously, could Hitler really have slipped through the cracks of history? Books and documentaries. The idea that Hitler escaped to Argentina didn't remain confined to whispered rumors or declassified intelligence files. It exploded into books, documentaries, and even TV series, cementing the theory in popular culture. One of the most famous books is Grey Wolf, The Escape of Adolf Hitler, published in 2011, which presents an extensive investigation claiming Hitler lived in Argentina until the 1960s. Authors Simon Dunstan and Gerard Williams combed through declassified documents, eyewitness accounts, and alleged Nazi escape routes to weave a compelling narrative that challenges the official story of his death. Documentaries have also brought the theory to a global audience. The History Channel's Hunting Hitler series followed a team of investigators using forensic analysis, satellite imagery, and interviews to track Hitler's supposed trail in South America. While critics dismiss much of the evidence as circumstantial, the series captivated viewers with its cinematic reconstruction of secret escapes, hidden estates, and shadowy Nazi networks. Books and documentaries don't just present evidence, they tell a story. They tap into a universal fascination with the what-if scenario. What if the most infamous dictator in history didn't die in a bunker but vanished into the wilderness, evading justice and living quietly for decades? The enduring popularity of these works shows that the legend of Hitler in Argentina is more than just a conspiracy. It's a narrative that sparks the imagination, blending history, mystery, and espionage into a tale people can't stop questioning. Even today, the theory continues to surface online, with forums, YouTube videos, and investigative blogs exploring new alleged sightings, uncovered documents, and secret hideouts. Books and documentaries may have brought the story to mainstream attention, but the digital age ensures that the legend of Hitler's escape will continue to thrive, challenging the official history and daring us to ask, did the world really see the end of Hitler in that Berlin bunker, or is the truth still out there, hidden in the shadows of Argentina? The legacy of the theory. Even decades after the end of World War II, the theory that Hitler escaped to Argentina continues to captivate imaginations, fuel debates, and inspire countless books, documentaries, and online discussions. Its endurance is remarkable, and there are several reasons why this particular conspiracy refuses to fade into obscurity. First, it thrives on uncertainty. Unlike other historical events, there's no definitive physical proof of Hitler's death, no verified body, no uncontested forensic evidence, and conflicting eyewitness accounts. That vacuum of certainty is a magnet for speculation. Humans are naturally drawn to mysteries, especially ones involving figures as infamous as Hitler, and the idea that history's most notorious dictator might have slipped away taps directly into that fascination. Second, the story connects with larger narratives about secret Nazi networks and hidden global power. Argentina wasn't just a random location. It's emblematic of a post-war world where justice wasn't always served, where shadowy alliances and clandestine operations could exist beyond the public eye. This makes the theory not just about Hitler, but about the broader idea that the official version of history might be incomplete or even deliberately concealed. Finally, the legacy of the theory persists because it's constantly reinforced by popular media. New books, documentaries, TV series, and online platforms keep the story alive, often adding new evidence or reinterpretations of old facts. Even skeptics are drawn in, compelled by the tantalizing possibility that what we think we know about history might not be the whole truth. In the end, the Hitler in Argentina theory is less about proving whether he survived or not, and more about the enduring power of a story that challenges official narratives. It reminds us that history is not always black and white, that mysteries can persist for decades, and that the line between fact and legend is often thinner than we'd like to believe. The question lingers: did Hitler really escape, or is the theory itself the real legacy, a story that refuses to die, much like the dictator it revolves around? Whether Hitler truly died in his Berlin bunker or vanished into the remote wilderness of Argentina may never be definitively proven. But the theory itself has left an indelible mark on history, popular culture, and the human imagination. From missing bodies and mysterious submarines to eyewitness accounts, secret estates, and government investigations, the story raises questions about how much we really know and how much remains hidden in the shadows. Ultimately, the legend of Hitler's escape endures because it taps into a universal fascination with mystery, power, and the unknown. It forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. Could history be hiding secrets from us? Are there corners of the world where the past quietly persists? And perhaps most intriguingly, if Hitler did survive, what does that mean for the world we think we know? One thing is certain: the story of Hitler in Argentina continues to captivate, terrify, and intrigue us, and it may never fully fade from memory. If you liked this video, please give us a like, leave a comment behind, and don't forget to subscribe, since we have a new video every week. See you next week. Bye bye.